have Esdras Junior.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, you're
Correct.
right.
All right. And so you're out of Satori BJJ in Phoenix. You guys are fairly new, right?
Yes,
Like
we
the
are fairly new.
school. When did you
Yeah.
open?
So we opened in July last year. So this is actually like now, wait, 8 months open, maybe 9 months.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's get to know you a little bit. I want to know a little bit about your story. So let's start with how did you get into jiu-jitsu? Let's start there.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I started jiu-jitsu when I was like 15, I believe 15, yeah, 15, I was 15. I started jiu-jitsu because I wanted to do something a little different than just going to the gym and lifting weights. As a
Mm-hmm.
teenager, I wanted to lose weight, I wanted to stay in shape, and I started working out, which is, very common. So I started going to the gym, lifting weights, and then once I got that goal, which was like to be in shape, everything started getting a little bit too repetitive, if I can say that way. So
Mm-hmm.
then I decided to look for something that would be a little bit more fun to do. Uh,
Yeah.
I had a friend at the time that would do judo. So I actually started doing judo for a little bit before I actually go into jiu-jitsu. But then I realized there
Interesting.
was a jiu-jitsu school right behind my house back in Brazil. On the other
Yeah.
street, there was a gym that was behind my house. So that's why I started training. And
Yeah.
from there, I never stopped.
That's so cool. Okay, wait. So so how long did you do judo for?
I did a couple classes in the beginning. Later on down the line, I started doing for a couple months. I did for a couple months in general.
Uh-huh.
Um, I
Was
have a
judo
friend.
big in Brazil at the time?
I think
It
judo is
was.
too big. It's just too big. Now with jiu-jitsu growing, it's
Right.
definitely a good competition. But judo
Nice.
was, yeah, yeah. It was it. You know how wrestling is here in the high schools, and
Yeah, that's
we
how it
have
is.
judo in a way similar there. It's
Yeah.
different, but it's
Yeah.
still similar.
Nice.
That's
Okay.
sense.
Okay, that's cool. So you started training in Brazil and then you came out here to Arizona and
Yes, I went
then
to Arizona, and then
yeah.
I trained here for about like 4 years and a half, 4 years at another team that I
Mm-hmm.
used to be part of. And
Yeah.
now, at this point, I'm training with my own school with my own students too,
That's
and here we
super
are.
cool. So
Yeah.
did you always have that dream of opening up your own school or like did that how did that happen? Like when did that happen for you that you said, "Okay, I want to do this like as a career?"
Um. So that's a good question. Back in Brazil, like I said, I also used to be an English teacher.
What?
I was an English teacher. I taught English for about 10 years.
I was gonna say your English is like really good.
Thank you. I think that is things that I can still, get better and
Yeah, no, I'm
but
actually impressed.
thank you. So then back in Brazil, I taught English, and this was my life for like since I'm 18. Like I started jiu-jitsu when I was 15, but then after later down the line, I went to university and I have a degree in linguistics and literature. So
Look
that's
at
what I
you.
started teaching when I was
Nice.
about like 18. I started
Mm-hmm.
teaching English. And from there, my life was both teaching and training jiu-jitsu. So for me,
Uh-huh.
having jiu-jitsu as a career, if I can say that way, was something that happened only later down the line when I was like 26, 27. That's when I decided to say like, okay, I do this, I do this activity. I
Yeah.
train jiu-jitsu every day. I compete, I travel, I do all this as a
Mm-hmm.
passion that I have. But if I
Yeah.
if I want to go to the next level, probably I have to commit a little bit more. And that's when I decided to, you know what, I'm gonna have to stop teaching English and I'm gonna travel. So then I decided to travel and to explore the world and jiu-jitsu in
Uh-huh.
as a first thing to do in my life.
That is super, super cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how long have you been actually like teaching jujitsu? Because I know, were you teaching before?
Okay, so it's it's funny you asking that because if I can say that way, back then we so jiu-jitsu classes would be taught also by purple belts, by blue belts, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
would be something that would be super like you have to have a black belt teaching, but then
Yeah.
later down the line with more professionalism of the sport, things became, nowadays,
Right.
it's almost like impossible to have like a necessarily a blue belt or a purple belt teaching a class. We have so many black belts all over, right?
Yeah.
It allows us to. But when I was a blue belt, I would teach some classes every now and then because my
Mm-hmm.
professor, he wouldn't be able to come at the time. And he'd say like, hey, can you teach the class for me? But of course, it would be a smaller group. It'd be like white belts or something
Yeah.
like that. So I've been getting in touch with teaching since that time. But officially, if I can say that way, I started teaching as a black belt, if I can put it that way.
Right. Okay, but so you had prior experience, so like teaching a little bit here and there.
A little bit here
So
and there,
yeah.
but more so for my friends, my teammates, you know,
Yeah.
people they wouldn't be my students, if I can say that way, right? But I would teach the classes every now and then, as
Mm-hmm.
a blue belt, purple belt, and so on. Um,
Yeah. So did teaching come easy for you? Like I feel
yes,
like teaching jujitsu is hard. I mean, especially like teaching little kids, like I always think like they don't even know what a choke really means. Like do they? Like do they know what they're doing? Like it's
I think
hard to teach, right?
they know they learn the technique, but they
Yeah.
sometimes they don't really understand the context of all that. Like, why am I doing this, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
they're doing the techniques, they're learning, they're doing really well, by the way. But sometimes they like, oh, I don't know. But I'm like, you just did it, right?
Yeah.
Definitely teaching kids or adults in general. Teaching can be challenging depending on,
Yeah.
you know, the day or the person or the time. But I really enjoy teaching, to be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I know you're an active competitor, right? You do you currently still compete or
So I
you
took a
have
little break.
injuries?
I took a little break since I started
Uh,
school because, you know, I decided to focus on the school in the beginning, you know what I mean,
yeah.
to make it work well, to make sure everything is how I think it's supposed to be. But I
Yeah.
definitely want to come back to competing. Hopefully anytime this year, I want to come back to the competition scene. My last tournament was last year, Pens. I did Pens last
Nice.
year. Actually, I did Phoenix Open after that too. But I was already in the
Nice.
school, so I was not really too focused on training.
Right.
More so like, you know, but my last one focus was actually Pens. And then after
Mm-hmm.
that, Phoenix Open, but hopefully anytime soon I'll be able to compete too.
Awesome.
Back to the competition
Okay.
scene.
And so what are your thoughts on competition? Do you think it's for everyone?
That's a good question. I believe everybody should have an experience at least once in a competition because it takes you out of your comfort zone. It puts you in an environment that is completely new and makes you understand that in the end of the day, jiu-jitsu is all the same. That is
Mm-hmm.
another person that also trains over there. And, you know, it makes us face situations like adversities and things that normally you wouldn't think too much at the gym because you're more comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think it can be for everybody in a way. It just depends
Yeah.
on how much you're willing to commit to that, or what is it that I'm expecting from this. If I just want to go ahead and go experience what jiu-jitsu can be in a competition, I think everybody can do that. If
Right.
you're willing to get more results and like better placements and, you know,
Right.
for tournaments, definitely you can
Uh-huh.
put a little bit more effort and, you know, training and
Yeah.
there.
So do you currently so do you push competition at your school or is it more like what do you say? What do you say to your students? Like do you encourage them to compete?
I think it's a natural process that some people see others competing and they will be like, "Oh, I would like to compete. When is the next tournament?" You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely encourage people to compete if they have the idea, if they want to compete. I
Mm-hmm.
just make sure they understand how things work in the sense of like, okay, this is what a tournament is. We're gonna have the rules. We're gonna have um, the brackets. We're gonna have the day of the tournament. So I make sure they have an idea of like how things are in a way so they can get there
Yeah.
feeling good about themselves and feeling ready for that, you know. I think
Yeah.
more important than just going there and throwing yourself at a tournament is preparing yourself for the tournament. Also,
Absolutely.
it's important to prepare yourself so you can feel good about what you did, no matter the result. The results
Yeah.
can be a consequence of so many different aspects, but definitely preparing yourself for the tournament is something fun to do as well. And
Right.
like for example, we had this past 2 weeks ago, we had AZBJJL ranking invitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were a couple of students that wanted to compete that one, and I said, "Let's go, let's get ready for
Yeah.
it."
Yeah.
So in the end, no matter the result, they started feeling really good about themselves towards the end of the preparation because some of them ended up losing weight, some of them ended up getting in better shape, their jiu-jitsu got a little sharper too. So in the
Right.
end of the day, you get ready for something like this, it's not something that you lose. You're improving yourself, you know?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And you know all about that.
I've been in
Yeah.
sides of the game, if I can put it that way. I
Yeah.
referee too. Uh,
Right.
I compete, so I understand how it could be and how it can be for the competitor side, you know, for
Yeah.
so I try to bring my experience in the on the mats and for people in those ideas too.
Yeah. How was the first time you competed? Tell us about your experience.
Oh my God. My
Did you
first time competing,
prepare?
no, I had 1 month into jiu-jitsu. I was 1 month into jiu-jitsu and somebody said, hey, that is gonna be a tournament. And I was, of course, a white belt. I didn't even know like
Yeah.
points. I didn't know anything. And I decided to do it. I'm like, let's go. I want to do it. And
Yeah.
during the fight, my mouth got so dried out because of the adrenaline, right? I got
Right.
so tired. I got so gassed out that I didn't even know what was happening, if I was winning, if
You
I was
blacked
losing.
out,
Yeah,
right?
I was
Yeah.
just there. I was just fighting with the guy that,
Yeah.
and probably he was the same way too. And like both of us
Yeah.
fight out.
Yeah.
So like at
Right.
the beginning, it's always very it's very different, right? Everything is new. Everything is so wild and like, oh, I don't even remember how things went. But I think I lost by points that match. Uh,
Okay,
but
that's not bad.
that's not
Well,
bad.
as long
Or
as it
maybe it
wasn't
was a,
like
or maybe it was a
18-0.
Kimura, or maybe it was a Kimura, or maybe it was a Kimura. I might be mistaken,
Yeah.
but it was in the end of the day, it was the first one, you know. So the first one there has to be a first one, no matter what. There has to
Right.
be a first one. So that should be your first experience at a tournament. So you should know how it is. And then I came back from that. I'm like, man, that was crazy, but I think I can get better, you know. And I did
Right.
a couple more, and every single one that you're doing, you're gonna start feeling a little bit better of yourself about
Right.
yourself. Like I said, no matter the result, you're gonna feel yourself in the match. You're gonna feel yourself at the
Yeah.
tournament, at that context, and you're like, oh, I can do this a little better. I can do this a little better. Every time
Yeah.
you go, it's a new experience, so you learn a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think that there's so many stories where people are just like 2 or 3 months in and then they just like jump into a competition and they don't do well. But like, I think that's a really good learning experience too, to know that you really have to prepare for these things, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like, everybody needs to experience that first. Like everyone has to have that moment where they just suck and then it's like, okay, now you know the work that's involved to get to like obviously like a good level, you know? So,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
It all comes down to how much I'm willing to work for that, how
Yeah.
much I'm willing to put into myself,
Yeah.
time, the
Yeah.
dedication, like to understand the techniques, to get ready physically, mentally. Am I
Mhm.
willing to um, do a diet if I have to? Am I willing to cut weight if I have to? You know, so those questions are going to be very personal. So I don't try to push anybody in that sense. Like you asked, like, do you
Mm.
push your students? I always like to have people free to choose whatever they want to do, and
Yeah.
let them know that I'm here to support them in whatever the decisions they make. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So in
right.
the sense of competing, if they want to compete, if they say I want to compete, I say okay, so let's sit down over here. Let's talk about when do you want to compete? What's the
Yeah.
window? I wouldn't compete if I had to come back in time, you know, like a month.
Yeah.
Not like you don't even know like how jiu-jitsu works in a month, you
No, a
know.
month is no good.
That's
I would
kind of
give it
wild.
6 months.
Yeah, a good
By
six
that
months.
time, okay. If
I
you
think
really want to do
months,
it, right?
6 months you can definitely have a
Even
good
6 months
base.
is it
It
still.
can be, yeah. But I mean, you can
But
have a good base, even if
yeah,
you whatever you do, at least you understood what happened there, right?
right. If you're dedicated, like if you're a dedicated like student that you know you show up 3 to 4 times a week, that would make sense. But I guess it all depends, right?
It
So
all depends on the person. That's true.
yeah, right. All right. So competitions are nerve-wracking, as you know. It's definitely a mental game.
Exactly.
So how do you handle your internal battles when it comes to competing?
Um, I think when it comes to competing, you have to be concentrated, right? It's one of the things that I oftentimes talk to people here. I oftentimes talk to people here and I say like, hey, the first thing you have to do is to pay attention. The first thing you have to be is to be present. You know, you can't be too far away. You can't be thinking about different things. Your mind can't be elsewhere, you know. So that's why you have to,
Mm-hmm.
in a way or another, empty your mind, in a way or another, be there, breathe,
Yeah.
concentrated. I like to relax before my tournaments. So I always like, you're going to always see me stretching a little bit, you know, on the
Yeah.
floor. and moving, and like I like to feel relaxed, so I can go there and like just feel like I can flow into the movement or perform however the fight is gonna go.
Yeah.
Relaxing too much can be a little hard. If you relax too much, you're not gonna be ready, because jiu-jitsu is
Right.
also can also be explosive, can also be
Right.
intense depending on the fighter, the person that you of
Mm-hmm.
course go with. Um, but I do like to relax a little bit. I like to stretch. I like to warm up a little bit before my match and like just put my headphones or stay in my
Yeah.
own zone.
You
Definitely.
still get nervous when you compete?
Uh, I wouldn't say nervous per se. I think
Anxious?
I believe that everybody's capable of doing a lot, right? So when it comes down to that, I also believe in myself. You have to, you have to go there and believe
Right.
in yourself, whoever you're gonna fight. The other person, of course, he can be a tough opponent. I'm not trying to say the other person is not, or I'm better. I'm like, but if you start going that route, you're gonna start having questions about a lot of different things, and the questions can be hard. If you have a lot of questions in your mind, it's gonna be hard to perform as you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to think too much about those things. And when I don't think too much about those things, everything just gets a little easier, if I can say it
Right.
that way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, of course, there's gonna be some butterflies in your stomach. It's normal, to feel that, and it's
Yeah.
important to feel that. That's you getting ready for something
I
that is
think you
coming up.
want that, right?
You want that,
You're
yeah.
not going to show up with like, I can't even imagine. Like, you need that fight or flight, right?
You need that. You need that. But you have to, in a way or another, try to manage that. You can't be just like, if you start getting
A
too,
wreck. Yeah.
yeah, it's not gonna help you at all.
Right.
So breathing, like trying to be present, trying to concentrate, and trying to do your best.
Yes. Okay. So do you have any requirements for somebody to compete at your school?
Um, they have to be training actively. That's the first thing. I have recommendations. Let's put it that way. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be training. The more you train, the more you practice. The more you practice, the more you're gonna feel good about yourself. The more you feel good about yourself, chances are you're gonna feel a little bit less nervous. You're gonna feel more prepared. It's all about how you feel in the end of the day.
Right.
And then of course, getting here, putting in the work, and working together with the team, and that's all we require.
Awesome. And so do you have competition classes or how do you run your classes? How do you prepare your students for competition?
Uh-huh. So recently we started a Saturday class here, in the Saturday classes, whenever we're coming back to competition time, we're coming closer to competition time, we put those classes as a competition class. So it's a Saturday class, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
during the weeks prior to the competition too, I'm gonna have the groups of students that want to compete, and I'm gonna have them, on specific positions,
Yeah.
or on situations that can be part of their game. Because remember how everybody has different games.
Yeah.
But even then, even people that have different games, they're gonna have to go through some scenarios during the match, some potential scenarios during the match, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely things that will happen at any match. The match starts standing up, we're gonna bump hands, and from there
Yeah.
it's gonna be right. So we can prepare for some things. We can go specific with your game. We can go specific in terms of like, okay, let's prepare for back takes. Let's prepare for back defenses. Let's work on side control situations or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And so you're a ref too, which is really cool. So you really understand the rule set. So like, do you go over that with your students or how do you go over like the rule set with like the adults and the kids?
Yeah. So jiu-jitsu is a sport that you have a rule, right? So you have a rule set that tells you the it's a guide basically for a person to understand how jiu-jitsu works. A lot of people think that the points are just like, a creation from the referee's mind, and 2 points, 3 points, but
Yeah.
actually the point system is going to tell you how much dominance you're having on the match. So you get a good takedown, you pass the guard, you're going to go to the mount. So the higher the points, the closer to the submissions you are, supposedly the more dominance on the match you are. So during the classes, this is something that I try to incorporate during my classes too. Okay, guys, so for those who are competing, this is a situation that is going to give you 2 points. If you're not willing to compete, but still want to understand how the game works, it's also important. So this is also 2 points, and this is going to be a good idea to have in your mind, so you can manage your time, you can manage the fight better,
Mm-hmm.
and understand why and how we do things.
Yeah. I love how you said that. That is nobody has ever said it like that. And you think about it like anything can happen in a match, right? Like you
Yeah.
can be 18-0, and then the one that has 0 can submit you, and then that's it. So like the points
It's
really,
happened to me.
yeah, I mean,
I've been winning
sorry
like
to bring
by
back the
long points,
memories,
and then
but
no, no problem. That's
but
exactly
yeah,
what it
it's
is.
true. It's
That's
just a
exactly what
point
it is.
system and it shows the dominance, like how dominant you are. I never thought about it like that, but it's true, right? Like
It
that's
is.
what it is. But at the end of the day, anything can happen and you shouldn't just think about the points either like that. So
Right. And that's what makes the game
interesting.
interesting, you know?
Yeah,
That's also something that I try to keep in people's mind too. Like, hey, remember, you gotta keep fighting until the end. Oh, the
till
person,
the end.
scored 10 points on me. Does that
Yeah,
mean I stop? No, maybe I can, maybe they got to my side, to my back,
yeah,
and almost got me, but then I escaped, I recovered my guard, and guess what? I got them in an armbar.
yeah,
So that's the nicest thing about jiu-jitsu is like until the time is over, the match
yeah.
is happening.
And you know that for a fact because you're a competitor, but also you're a ref and you've seen it all, I'm sure. So
Many times. Many times the person is
yeah,
winning. Like I said, it happened to me. It can happen
yeah,
to anybody, not because you underestimate your opponent or anything like that. It's just because sometimes you relax. Like I said, you have
right.
to relax at points, but you can't relax too much,
Yeah,
So you relax and the person starts believing in themselves because, like you said, it's a mental game.
yeah,
So it's always going to be about who is believing more in themselves at that moment. So I
yeah,
start a match over here, and suddenly Priscilla starts believing in herself, and I
yeah,
start going like this, and you start realizing you can see that going
yeah,
through the matches, you
yeah.
know how
And
that
you're
works.
Brazilian, so I can talk about this. So soccer, you see that all the time. Like they're up 2-1, and it's
Right.
like the last
We
moments of the
won.
match. It's like we won, and then boom, it's like tie, and then boom, another goal, and it's like, see, like why'd you relax? Like you could
You
have
can.
won.
You can't.
So it happens all the time. But
It
yeah,
can happen. It can
a
happen.
hundred percent.
So how I take it is those are lessons. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Jiu-jitsu is a tool, in my opinion, that helps us understand more about ourselves, our capabilities, our limitations, but also
yeah,
how to improve those, how to get better. And I could spend the whole afternoon speaking about that because I
yeah,
love jiu-jitsu in that sense too, and it's helped me a lot in multiple areas of my life, of my mind and stuff. But one of the things that it helped me to is to understand how like anything can happen at any time. So
right,
you need to be present, you need to be concentrated, because the moment that you blink and the moment that you lose your concentration, that little gap
right.
can be enough for your
That's
opponent
all it
to.
takes,
That's all.
right? Right. For sure. How do you guide your students regarding weight classes and cutting weight?
Okay, that can be a delicate topic for some people,
Yeah.
because the relationship that I have with food, with diet, and it can be different.
Yeah.
Like I know how for a fact, like some people they have a certain idea of what to eat. They know, okay, so by the way, I'm not a nutritionist or anything in that sense. So that's one thing
Yeah.
that I try to bring to them too. If you want professionalism, you have to look for a professional, right?
Right.
Priscilla takes pictures and shoots videos, which I can take some pictures YouTube, but I'm pretty sure your quality is gonna be way better, and that's for anything else in life.
Yeah.
So if
Right.
you want results, you have to have the help of somebody that is a professional. That's the first thing I try to instruct them, because as an athlete, that's something that I did too my whole
Mm-hmm.
life. When I wanted to have like a better help, when I wanted to have better results, I would definitely go talk to a nutritionist or
Yeah.
to a dietitian. That person can definitely help me eat the same things that I eat, but just in a way that is a little bit more organized, or just in a
Mm-hmm.
way that like, hey, this is gonna work here, this is not gonna work there. Now, obviously, with the experience that I have as an athlete, I can understand when somebody's not doing, like, okay, you're leaving training and you're gonna go have burgers and fries.
Yeah.
That's a no,
No.
right? Because jiu-jitsu is also something that is gonna help you get in a good shape, in a good fitness level, and this is
Mm-hmm.
also gonna reflect in your mind too, how you feel about yourself. So
Yeah.
definitely, I try to make sure people find their balance in this sense, at least. Find your balance in what works for you. Try to avoid the junk food, or try to have a balance at least in that. We are what we eat. We are what we consume in a way or another. That plays a big role in who we become and how
Mm-hmm.
we feel about ourselves. And it's your fuel, right?
Right.
So you're gonna put the right fuel in the car, it's gonna run well. Same thing for us.
Absolutely. For sure. And so, how do you talk to your students about being mentally prepared? Is there anything you tell them before like they step onto the mats?
Um, okay, it's very common that people on the week of the tournament, right, they start having questions about themselves and or about their game, or Depending on the person, of course, you know. And sometimes you're gonna have somebody that prepared really well, but then in the week of the tournament, they're gonna be like, man, I don't know this area or this and that. And I will say, hey, we did what we had to do, right? Because that's the truth about it. We're never gonna be 100%. We're humans, so in our
Mm-hmm.
condition, we can't be 100%. But we can understand and we can accept that we did the best that we could do at this moment. So at
Yeah.
the moment that I understand that and I realize that, I start feeling better about what I did. I start feeling better about the process. And I
Right.
understand that this is not necessarily going to be my last tournament. So when I start going through that pathway, I start relaxing a little bit more and trying to be more concentrated on what I
Positive.
can do,
Concentrate.
what are
Mm-hmm.
the possibilities that I can do in terms of what's going to happen in the match. Um, I always try to bring them to them the idea that during the match you're gonna fight another human being that has two arms, two legs, you know, like it's another person as well. So because we sometimes create a
Yeah.
monster in our mind, oh, we think we're gonna fight the black belt world champion in the fight.
Yeah.
But man, you're a white belt, you're a blue belt, you're gonna fight somebody in your same age
Right.
bracket, in your same weight division, same color belt. So chances are you're not gonna fight somebody that is way far away from you or like you are way far away from them. So just go there and
Yeah.
have fun, you know.
Right. Yes. Yes. And so, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to compete for the very first time?
For the very first time.
Very first time.
Okay. Don't go too crazy on the weight cut.
Uh-huh.
That can play a big role on your performance, you know.
Yeah.
Try to talk to your coach and see what improvements, or your professor to see what improvements you can have in your game, the things that you could work better, the things that you can work. We're talking about like if we're a month away from the tournament, those little points, they can play a big role. You know,
Right.
developing an A game. So developing a strategy about what I want to do is important too. If I have a clear vision in my mind about the direction that I want to go, it makes a lot easier than just going there and like, what's happening? You know, who's gonna do what? Am I gonna wait
Yeah.
for the person to do something? Am I doing something? And so if I have that pathway, if I have that strategy in my mind, because jiu-jitsu goes a lot through the strategy too, right?
Yeah.
Um, so if I have that idea in my mind, it's gonna be a lot easier. So developing strategies, eating
Love
well,
it.
right? Bring water to the tournament and don't sit at the weight cut that is too much. And especially for your first tournament, you want to go there and have fun and don't be
Yes.
too hard on yourself, you know?
Yeah. Especially that one. Especially that one.
Don't be too hard on
Because you
yourself,
know,
you
when
know?
you lose, it just like that keeps you up at night, right? So,
Yeah. So it can be hard. I understand
it's,
some
yeah.
losses can be hard to process, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what else are we gonna do?
Right. Yeah.
Just have to accept whenever we accept life as it is, we can develop new strategies, we can go take new
For
pathways,
sure.
we can improve ourselves actually, you know. So
Yeah. You sound like a mindset coach.
I think jiu-jitsu has helped me get here this
Yeah,
way.
I see that. I see that. Awesome. Okay, so we've learned so much about you. So thank you so much for sharing. We've seen you at the events too, and we want to know from you, how has your experience been? Hopefully good. Working
Oh,
with us and also
oh,
coming to the
yeah.
events.
Oh yeah, absolutely. AZBJJL is one of the most organized federations that I've worked for in general. Just like from the entrance, right? You can tell like this is something organized, right? So
Right.
definitely the referees. I'm very biased to say,
Oh, what do
but
you
the referees are
mean?
I'm biased. I'm a referee for AZBGL,
Yeah,
but
but you can say your
what I'm
experience
trying to say is like
working. Yeah.
definitely with my
Yeah.
experience, the referees that they select to referee the tournament are definitely great referees. Um, so the organization itself, the mats, everything, it's just like, you know, Arizona definitely has something great going on here.
We really do. I feel like a lot of states don't. And that's so interesting, right? Like you only ref here in Arizona or where? Do
Um,
you go to other states?
I go to other states if I ever go compete, or if I ever go like if I'm ever called to referee other organizations, or you know,
Yeah.
that's for IBJJF as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly here.
And how would you say the tournament scene is compared to like here compared to other states?
I think
Like not
here
IBJJF, just like in within the state.
jiu-jitsu is definitely getting bigger and bigger here in Arizona,
Yeah.
you know, which is something that is great, you know.
Yeah. No, it's definitely cool. It's definitely cool. Okay, so where can people find you on social media?
Okay, my Instagram is Esdras, which is my first name, ESDRAS, and then JRBJJ, Esdras JRBJJ. So that's my Instagram. Our school's Instagram is gonna be Satori BJJ Academy.
Yeah,
So you guys can feel free to talk to me and reach out whenever you guys can, and
yeah.
the doors are always open.
And what does Satori mean?
Satori means a moment of enlightenment. It's when you're present, when you're in the present time, when you can empty your mind, when you can be really connected to what
Yeah,
is actually happening.
really
That's when you can
cool.
actually experience, the best of
Love
yourself.
it. Love it. Well, congrats on the new school. I have to come visit you guys
Of course, you're more than
eventually.
welcome.
You're in Phoenix, so you're right here. No
Awesome.
excuses for me. Um, but thank you so much for your time. So nice getting to know you, and we'll see you at the tournaments.
Awesome. I'll see you, Priscilla. Thank you for the
All
interview.
right. Thank you for your time. Okay.